Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Thursday, match day of course. Arsenal in action later this evening at Emirates Stadium, Sporting Lisbon, the visitors for the second leg of the Europa League last 16. Of course it's 2-2 after the first leg in Portugal last week. Arsenal hopefully going to do the job, finish it off tonight and get themselves through to the quarterfinals. I will be there, so keep your eyes peeled for all the usual stuff from me at the game. If you can't see it, if you're not watching it, then follow all the updates live on my social media accounts. I'll be on Twitter, of course, trying to provide all the match commentary as I usually do. Before we get into this video, I just wanted to bring your attention, if you haven't seen it yet or haven't seen the announcement, I am writing a book. Scary, exciting, I'm not quite sure how to describe it. Probably more scary than exciting, to be honest, because I have no idea how I'm going to manage it in the middle of this mad title run and balancing my family life as well, but I'm going to do it. It's coming out in August, at the end of August. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. I'll drop the link below in the description, so keep your eyes, have a look down. It's on my social media accounts as well. If you want to get your hands on it, you can pre-order it now. It's doing very well, actually. It's top of the charts on Amazon for Arsenal and football biographies already. So it's about Mikel Arteta and his rebuild at Arsenal. It's called Revolution, the rise of Arteta's Arsenal. It's not just solely about this season. Lots of people said, why are you doing it now? Wait until we win the title and then do it. You might jinx it. But it's not about really the title. It's about the whole rebuild under Mikel Arteta since he arrived at the club, and it's just focusing on Arteta. So it will also, it will include lots of stuff about what he was a player like as a player at Arsenal, what he was like when he went to Manchester City and sort of cut his teeth working under Pep Guardiola before joining Arsenal, and then obviously documenting the mad, crazy journey he's been on since he arrived at Arsenal in 2019. So yeah, that's coming out on August 31st. Hopefully you will enjoy it. Revolution, the rise of Arteta's Arsenal by Charles Watts. Scary, very scary. But like I said, pre-order is available now, and if you want to get your hands on it, then you can do it. Just have a look you'll find the link in the description below. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about tonight's game, shall we? Big game, not the Premier League, so it's a bit weird. I thought, like, even watching last week's game, I didn't have that dreadful, nauseous feeling watching a game of just the sheer terror of dropping points because it's not the Premier League. But it's still a big competition for Arsenal. They want to win it. They definitely want to win it. And I think it's hard. I don't think the players are in this mindset, but I think certainly myself, and I'm talking as a fan here rather than a journalist, that I don't quite have that same fear factor over not winning in the Europa League as I do at the Premier League at the moment. It's just it's a different experience watching Europa League games. I certainly found that last Thursday. But having said all that, it's definitely a game you want Arsenal to win tonight. It's going to be the first match at the Emirates, European match at the Emirates, with a crowd since that game against Olympiacos when they went out in Arteta's first season, when Aubameyang missed that open goal in the last minute of extra time to send Arsenal through. And of course, COVID basically hit the next couple of days. Arteta caught it and then football shut down. So there haven't been a European game with fans at the Emirates since then. There was, of course, the games behind closed doors. The Villarreal game was the last knockout game Arsenal played in Europe in that semi-final. And Arsenal have a lot of unfinished business, I always say, in this competition. It's what a competition they've come close to winning, losing in the final, losing in the semi-final. You feel like, hopefully this is going to be the last season Arsenal are in it for a while, because they're definitely going to be in Champions League next season, touch wood. And so you want to go out and try and win this competition for once. And they've got a good chance here. 2-2 was a decent result last night. Mikel was asked if Europa League is going to distract from the domestic campaign. He says, no, we haven't had big European nights for 3 years due to COVID. Tomorrow is probably the first one that we've had for a while. And hopefully we'll build a really good atmosphere and enjoy it. Our supporters will be there against a really good team that is going to be a big challenge in front of us. I think it's going to be an exciting game. We saw enough of Sporting Lisbon last week to know that they're going to cause Arsenal problems today. They're dangerous on the break. They've got pace, they've got trickery in Marcus Edwards, who caused Arsenal a lot of problems, caused Tottenham a lot of problems when he played them early in the season in Champions League. And they're going to come and they're going to enjoy it, I imagine, Sporting Lisbon. Missing a couple of players, no Quartos, which is a big thing for them. Obviously, their captain, he's suspended, so that's a big thing for them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we get on. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good match. I will, at the end of this video, go through my predicted 11 for that one. Mikel's press conference yesterday at London Colney was interesting on a couple of points. First of all, we spoke about Eddie Nketiah's injury, and this is what he had to say. He said, it's getting better. He's still in the boot, so he's still a few weeks away. We need to be patient. It was a nasty injury. It's a challenge that Eddie's got in front. Actually, it said it's a big challenge that Eddie's got ahead of him, but thank God it could have been worse. He's not in a bad place. So, it's clearly a pretty significant injury that Eddie Nketiah's had. Arsenal still, when you speak to people, they're still like, hopefully he might be back after the international break. But certainly what Mikel's saying there feels like it's a little bit worse than some people at Arsenal have been letting on in terms of Nketiah's injury. Clearly, if he's in a boot now, still a protective boot, he's nowhere near coming back to training, obviously, if he's still in that situation. The fact that Arteta says he's got a big challenge ahead of him, we'll wait and see exactly when Eddie's going to be back. But from those comments, you kind of think, I'm not sure immediately after international break it's going to be possible, but we shall wait and see. Maybe it is. I thought that was interesting. He spoke about Emil Smith-Rowe, which I thought was interesting as well. He says, look, he knows how much we love him and how much we missed him and how much we need his qualities. Now he just needs to prove it. He needs to prove how much he wants to win and how much he's going to contribute to the team to be better and to win. And he's going to have to show that to get into the team. We have to manage his load for sure. He's in a position where we can use him in the team in any moment. Then it's about how he's coping with the game in general and whether to take him off or use him in the last few minutes. So, yeah, it's an interesting one with Smith-Rowe because clearly he made such an impact when he came into the team. And Mikel was talking about it again yesterday, saying that now he's back, there's a lot more competition, so it's a lot more harder for him than when he went away. And that is true. Obviously, Arsenal have strengthened the squad since Smith-Rowe's been injured. There's players like Vieira who have come in who can play in his place. Martinelli has absolutely stepped up. You think when Smith-Rowe was fit and before he was keeping Martinelli in the team, it's the other way around now. So it's a big challenge for Smith-Rowe. I'm a big fan of him. I think you guys already know that. And I think he's a fantastic talent. I think he brings a lot to the Arsenal team that they don't have as well. He's got qualities, that driving, running with the ball quality, which probably only Martinelli has. I still think long term in the central area, in that sort of Granit Xhaka position, he could be very, very good. And I think he's got an awful lot to give. And it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with it now he's back and he's fit and he's injury free. How is he going to, sort of stand up to the challenge ahead of him in terms of competing with others to get his place in the team? What's he going to do at training? How hard is he going to work? How much is he going to want to try and get himself into the starting 11? Those are all the questions that are sort of hanging over Smith-Rowe, and it's going to be intriguing to see how he gets on and how he finds his way back into this team. It's a great problem for Mikel Arteta to have. Again, we sort of touched on it with the forwards recently, with Trossard now playing so well, with Jesus back from injury. Suddenly there's a real problem for Mikel in terms of choosing who's going to play up front. And then when you look in those midfield positions as well, or out wide, he's got the same problem with the likes of Smith-Rowe back. Vieira certainly stepping up in the last few weeks and looking a much more polished Premier League type player as well. So it's all good for Arteta. It's exactly what he wants. He wants a strong squad, but it's going to be intriguing to see how Smith-Rowe sort of copes and how much pressure he puts on those ahead of him to try and get his place back in the team. Will he start tonight? I mean, this could be a big opportunity for him. Personally, I don't think he will, which you'll see when I give my predicted 11, but he might do. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, and it'd be a massive opportunity if he is. I'm sure we'll definitely see him. It's just a case of will it be from the start or will it be from the bench in the second half? This was really interesting, I thought. This is the most interesting part of the press conference. It wasn't in the live bit, so it wasn't in the bit that you'd have seen on the videos or on Arsenal.com or anything like that. It was in the embargoed section, which was held for the sort of 10:30pm slots last night and will be in the morning papers today. He was asked by Simon Collins at the Standard about I think he gave an interview to Arsenal.com last week, and in it he was talking about substitutes, but he called them impactors. And Simon asked him about that in a press conference yesterday. And so basically there is no such thing as substitutes at Arsenal anymore. It's something Mikel's sort of taken out of the vocabulary. There is no substitutes. Now, those people on the bench who come on in the second half, they're called impactors, not substitutes. It's a proper, I don't know, it's very David Brent, which I think you can say about Mikel Arteta a lot when in some of the things he does behind the scenes, the light bulb, the clock, all those sort of things. It works. Clearly it's working because Arsenal are top of the league and the squad is behind him 100%. But, you can certainly look at this sort of thing and think you could be watching The Office and you can imagine David Brent saying something like this in a motivational speech to a very shocked audience, impactors, not substitutes. But this is what he said. He explained it. He said, it's something we wanted to change. I discussed it with a few people around other sports and football as well, and then we discussed it with the team. We wanted to find something that is particular to us. I think it was the best way to express how we feel about them, substitutes, and how they feel towards the team, especially on a match day. I think the way we describe it now is more like what we want. If you repeat it more and more and you discuss it more and more, it will be closer to that than just being a sub. So clearly this is all part of Arteta, and he does all these little things. The clock was a perfect example at the weekend, bringing it into the change room at Fulham. When you look in that picture behind the clock, you'd notice all around the change room there's big posters stuck up, there's Arsenal crests stuck up. It's all a part of Mikel. When he takes Arsenal away from home, he wants them to feel like they are at home. That's why he brings all this stuff that he puts on the dressing room walls away from home, just to make it feel more like the Emirates and like they're at home. And this is another example of that sort of thing, of just making everyone feel connected, everyone feeling like they're making an impact on this season. It's not about you're on the substitutes, you're not playing, you're kind of on the fringes of things, you're not involved. He wants everyone to feel like they're involved, and that's why he doesn't want them to be known as a substitute. He wants them to be used as known as an impactor. Whether the players care about that at all, we have no idea. I'm sure if we asked them, they'd say they would, because they would have to, because otherwise it would annoy the manager. But deep down, what they talk about behind the scenes when Mikel's not around, is this something that they'd really be bothered about? Who knows? But if it does make that little difference, even that 1 or 2% little difference, which in elite sport can be a massive thing, then it's worth doing. And I think it's just another really interesting sort of insight into the man, into the coach, into the sort of motivational figure that is Mikel Arteta and what he's bringing to Arsenal. Agree with it or not, or disagree with what he's got to do, joke about what he's got to do. I think everyone can have their opinion on exactly how he's doing things. But I think when you look at the league table, you look at the results, you look at the performances, it's very hard to argue with what he's doing. And if this sort of thing helps, then brilliant. It might just be that little 1 or 2% extra that helps Arsenal win the Premier League title. Okay, before I go on to board changes, predicted 11, I quickly want to talk about the board changes. You might have seen it yesterday. Arsenal announced some changes to the structure of the board. Stan Kroenke and Josh Kroenke have become co-chairs. Tim Lewis has become executive vice chair. It doesn't really make any difference. I had lots of questions since it was announced. What does this mean for Arsenal? What does it mean? It doesn't really make any difference, to be honest. It's just kind of formalising the way Arsenal have been working for the last couple of years. Like Tim Lewis, for example, who before was a non-executive figure on the board, has had a huge role for the last couple of years. He's basically the bridge between the Kroenkes in America and the day-to-day running of the operations in London, which is overseen by Eddie Nketiah, the CEO. But Tim Lewis is kind of the bridge between the two, between America and the US. He was brought in and brought to the club by the Kroenkes. He was a lawyer, and he was brought in to kind of as their on-the-ground man a few years ago, but now he's been doing so much work. Even at Fulham at the weekend, when I was waiting to speak to some of the players afterwards, you could see Tim Lewis right down there by the changing room doors talking to loads of people. He's a very influential figure at the club. All this does is kind of formalise that in terms of his title. So it's no massive changes. There's not going to be much going on. Stan Kroenke did put out a quote. He said, "This is a simple evolution as part of us all driving Arsenal forward and further reaffirms our family's long-standing commitment to this great club. Stability in football has never been more important as we move past the pandemic, and we believe that this is the perfect time to formalise these roles. Our ambitions and objectives will never waver to field teams that compete for trophies at the highest level and lead our club in a way that inspires our passionate supporters around the world." I thought that was probably the most interesting thing of the lot. It's just basically the Kroenkes sort of confirming their long-term commitment at the club. When you think this is at a time when Chelsea have been sold, Man United are in the process of possibly being sold, Liverpool in the process of possibly being sold, this is kind of the Kroenkes in the middle of all that coming up and saying, no, we're staying, we're not going anywhere, we're very much still committed to Arsenal. Whether you think that's a good thing or not, it's up to you. The Kroenkes, we know they divide opinion. I think it's fair to say that their popularity probably now has never been as high as it is, because the team are doing well, because there is clearly a good plan being put in place and Arsenal are benefiting as a result. So I think that probably their popularity is high as it ever has been, but that's not to say they're universally popular. So yeah, I'm sure everyone will have an opinions on this. Is it a good thing or bad thing? But certainly from the quotes, they are still very, very much committed to Arsenal. Okay, finally, and I'm aware this video is now dragging on a little bit. We're already up to about 14 and a half minutes, so I want to rattle through it because I'm sure you're pretty bored of listening to me talk by now. But predicted 11, remember, this is just me trying to guess what Arteta's going to do. It's not based on any opinion, on any information or anything like that. This is just a team I'm expecting to see tonight. It's going to be wrong because Europa League, it's virtually impossible to get it right because Arteta does so many just make so many changes. But this is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go Turner in goal, Tomiyasu at right back. I'm going to go Holding and Gabriel as the 2 centre-backs. Last week it was Saliba and Kivior. I think he might rotate that round a little bit just to give Saliba the day off, give him a bit of a rest. But if you're going to do that, then you need to play a left-sided centre-back, and I'm not sure he'd play Holding and Kivior together, so I think Gabriel will play. So that's my thinking behind this. So Turner in goal, Tomiyasu, Holding, Gabriel, Tierney, Jorginho. I'm going to go Vieira and Odegaard. I think he might rest Xhaka. So Jorginho, Vieira and Odegaard as a midfield 3, and then I'm going to go Saka, Trossard and Reece Nelson. Now that could be completely wrong. Personally, I think Saka shouldn't be starting. I think he needs to rest tonight. But, you know, he could well play Reece Nelson on the right and play Smith Rowe on the left and play Trossard as a striker. But I'm going to go predicted 11, Saka, Trossard and Nelson as a front 3. So that's Turner, Tomiyasu, Holding, Gabriel, Tierney, Jorginho, Vieira, Odegaard, Saka, Trossard and Nelson. Let's see how wrong that is when that team is announced at about 6:45pm tonight. That's it from me. Sorry for rambling on for a little bit longer than usual. I will be at the Emirates tonight, of course, remember. So keep your eyes peeled for all the usual match action. Enjoy the game if you're going to it. Enjoy the game if you're watching it anywhere around the world. And I'll speak to you soon.